Unexpectedly, a cleaning lady revealed a hidden protection for a Millionaire's special daughter. Mary adjusted her apron, the fabric a little worn but clean, and made her way through the cavernous halls of billionaire Jason Hughes' mansion. Dust particles danced in the late afternoon light streaming through the massive windows. Her heart ached as she watched the gleaming marble floors. Behind each polished surface lay a reflection of her struggles piling bills, a flickering hope for Lily's future. Being a single mother and a cleaning lady in such opulence felt like a chasm she could never cross. While dusting the oversized leather-bound volumes lining the Grand Library's walls, Mary overheard Jason speaking sharply to someone on the phone. Her hands froze. "I just don't have time to deal with her emotional outbursts," he said, his tone lacking warmth. It was his daughter, Sarah, a child with autism who felt so much yet was so often invisible to her father. A jolt of anger surged within Mary. How could he dismiss Sarah's struggles as if they were mere inconveniences? For a moment, jealousy gripped her. She wanted the privilege of understanding, of knowing what it felt like to have someone care as deeply for Lily as she did. Before she could ponder further, the charity event began to crescendo. Guests mingled, laughter echoed under the chandeliers, while Mary continued to work behind the scenes. Despite the pulse of excitement, unease twisted in her stomach. Was there a way to advocate for Sarah without stepping out of her designated role? The thought spiraled: what if Jason discovered her attempts to intervene? Her ambition clashed painfully with her loyalty to her job, the paycheck vital for Lily's care. Feeling completely trapped, she inhaled deeply, steeling herself against the rush of uncertainty. "Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." The tension swelled as Mary noticed Sarah standing awkwardly at the edge of the gathering. Surrounded by polished adults discussing investments, Sarah fidgeted, her eyes wide with unspoken fear. Suddenly, she clutched her head, a panic emanating from her small frame. Mary's heart raced. She could either step back or reach out. In an instant, she was moving. People turned, the spotlight shifting to them, all eyes on Sarah. Mary knelt beside her, whispering gently, "You're not alone. Let us find your voice." As she pulled out a sketchpad from her bag, expectant gasps filled the air. In that fleeting moment, Mary was acutely aware of the weight of their worlds colliding. She felt raw, the attraction of this new purpose weighing heavily on her heart. Each brush of Sarah's pencil drew the shadows away from the girl's eyes, a light neither of them could ignore. Yet, in her commingling desire to protect this child and provide for her own, Mary's mind spun with the implications of her nurturing bond. Could she forge a path that intertwined their lives? Or would Jason be a looming obstacle? As the crowd's murmurs enveloped them, Mary was left questioning if love could bridge their vast differences, or if it would ultimately deepen the divide. Mary's hands trembled as she held the sketchpad, the weight of her decision pressing heavily on her chest. Each stroke of Sarah's pencil seemed to bridge the chasm between their worlds, a moment of connection enveloped in color and creativity. But as the murmurs gradually faded, a new tension coiled within her. What if this moment didn't lead anywhere? What if it backfired? Looking up, she caught Jason's gaze cutting through the gathering, a mixture of confusion and annoyance etched across his features. She felt a flush of embarrassment creeping up her neck. The awareness of his fatherly distance from Sarah was one thing, the realization that he might now view her as a threat to his authority was another. Did he think she was trying to undermine him? Mary's instincts screamed for retreat, yet she remained steadfastly beside Sarah, refusing to abandon the girl who had unwittingly breathed life into her heart. Mary's mind churned with thoughts, grappling with the conflicting urgencies of her life. The gentle rhythm of Sarah's creativity clashed with the harsh, loud demands of her own reality. She had long learned to tiptoe around the jagged edges of life, but now there was a clarity in this child that sparked something dormant within Mary. She had been merely a caretaker until this point, her identity tangled within brass-gilded frames as she scrubbed other people's dirt. But here, with Sarah, it felt different. It was as if she was awakening from a long slumber. "Look at this, Sarah," Mary encouraged and pointed to the swirling lines taking shape on the page. "You can tell a story through your drawing." Sarah glanced up, eyes shimmering with uncertainty, yet Mary could see the flicker of hope. In that moment, she realized she could empower Sarah in the same way she had wished someone would elevate her own daughter's potential. The growing connection sparked a relentless desire to protect Sarah, but how? Was it possible to step beyond the bounds of being a mere employee? Was she ready to face Jason and confront his lack of understanding towards his own daughter? Each thought reverberated in her mind like a drumbeat, mounting a pressure that felt both exhilarating and terrifying. As Mary's determination solidified, she caught Jason approaching, his brow shaped like a thunderstorm. "What is going on here?" he demanded, his voice cold as it sliced through the moment of grace they had been building. Instinctively, Mary straightened, defensive yet unyielding. Taking a steady breath, she reminded herself of the weight of what she now held in her heart, the tiny spark that could ignite anything if given the right space to flourish. "We're creating," Mary said, her voice steadied with newfound conviction. "She just needs a moment to feel safe. She needs your support, Jason." The challenge hung in the air between them, unwavering, unyielding. The retort on Jason's lips faded, surprise mingled with disbelief crossing his features. The crowd's attention shifted entirely toward the unfolding confrontation. Mary's pulse quickened, her heart pounding in duality, fear and resolve fought for supremacy within her. She was on the precipice of something greater, something new. In that instant, it was clear, this was not merely about cleaning someone else's house anymore. This was about uncovering a voice lost amidst the echoes of wealth and power, a voice that mattered just as much as any other. As she gazed into Sarah's hopeful eyes, she understood that this was a defining moment not just for Sarah, but for herself. As Jason's reaction settled like dust in the air, Mary breathed deeply once more, mentally preparing for whatever direction this confrontation would take. Would Jason simply shut her down, solidifying his wall of indifference? Or would he see the truth in her words? "Do you want to turn this around with us?" she challenged, each syllable charged with the promise of empowerment. The pivotal silence that followed was both charged with anticipation and fraught with uncertainty. Mary stood at a crossroads, her path undetermined, yet treacherously poised to catapult her into a realm of purpose and clarity more profound than she ever imagined. The moment had arrived. Jason's posture shifted slightly, a subtle falter in the authoritative stance he had held so firmly moments earlier. Mary seized this fleeting opportunity, the sound of her heartbeat amplifying with each passing second. The stark reality of their setting, the high ceilings and exquisite decor, felt less like a barrier and more like a fragile bubble, which she longed to burst. She wanted to reach through the gilded veneer and connect with the raw, untamed energy swirling within both of them. "Turn what around?" Jason finally asked, skepticism lacing his tone, mingled with curiosity. Mary sensed that his protective instincts toward Sarah simmered beneath the surface, but an opening now lay before her. It was a chance to challenge both his authority and his perception of vulnerability. "The way you see Sarah," she responded, her voice firm. "She's not just your daughter. She's an artist, a storyteller whose voice deserves to be heard. If you only see her as an extension of your wealth, you're missing something precious." A flicker of something surprise, perhaps, crossed Jason's face. Mary pressed forward, her head spun with renewed determination as she saw him contemplating her words. This wasn't just a battle for Sarah's artistic expression, it was a confrontation of his limitations as a father. Entire lifetimes lived under masks often blinds individuals to truths hidden in plain sight. "Do you even know what she loves?" Mary continued, each question crafted with purpose. "Do you sometimes see her as just a daughter, or rather as a conduit of your ambition?" The tension thickened, the atmosphere crackled with her courage and his hesitance. For Mary, Every word served as a mean to reclaim her own identity while simultaneously encouraging Sarah to embrace her talent. She had spent years cleaning up after others, never daring to voice her opinions. But here, standing her ground, she felt a warrior's rising spirit within her. Jason's fidgeting unease denoted a shift, perhaps his fortress had cracks. She's a child. What does she know about the world? He countered, but his voice lacked its former edge. That's exactly why she needs someone to show her. To nurture her passion. Mary's heart raced with a realization her empowerment was now intricately tied to Sarah's growth. It was not merely about their shared moment, but about the risk she needed to take to support someone else's greatness. The weight of maternal instinct propelled her forward. How would you know? Jason shot back, but now there was less venom, more uncertainty. She could sense him grappling with the very foundation of his beliefs about parenthood. Was she truly changing his perspective? We're different, you and I, Mary asserted. But perhaps a bridge can be built. There's value in allowing her to explore her potential, something you may not have experienced. You see what life gives through a lens of financial assurance. Sarah needs the chance to breathe life into her dreams, to make those decisions herself. Silence enveloped them, the stark contrast of their worlds nearly tangible. But the moment was shifting. No longer was it only about confrontation, the possibility for connection loomed. Jason's facade began to crack, his brow furrowed and relaxed in tandem, and tensions coiled into something resembling contemplation. What if he could indeed realign his focus on fatherhood not as a ledger of achievements, but as a journey with Sarah? An air of hope swelled. Mary could feel the balance slowly tipping in her favor. Would she manage to effect real change? Would Jason embrace an unexpected partnership in this endeavor? Just before Jason could respond, a distant ringing broke through the electric-charged moment, a stark reminder of their everyday realities. The intrusion seemed misplaced but legitimate, pulling everyone back into their mundane worlds. Mary prepared herself for the inevitable. Would the conversation collapse, receding into the shadows of his self-protective walls once again? Or could this be the starting point of a new dialogue, a commitment to help Sarah blossom? Let's find a quiet space to talk further, Jason, she proposed, her resolve underpinning the request. The truth lay just beyond the precipice of their dialogue, and she wasn't ready to back down now, but would he agree to explore this new, lighter path? As Mary led Jason down the corridor, the tension between them transformed into an unspoken pact, a critical juncture neither fully understood yet. The ornate walls closed in slightly, almost pressing her forward. Each step echoed a blend of anxiety and anticipation. Would Jason be the man to evolve, or would he retreat back into the comfort of his rigid expectations? They reached a small conference room at the end of the hall, brightly lit yet empty. The air was charged, heavy with possibilities. Mary took a seat, eager to dig deeper into the complexities of Jason's relationship with his daughter. Before we talk about Sarah, let us talk about you, she said, locking eyes with him. You're clearly someone who cares deeply for her. But if you're so afraid of the world for her sake, how will she ever find her own way? Jason shifted in his seat, crumbling edges of his confidence threatening to fold into quiet chaos. It was evident he was struggling to compartmentalize this sudden introspection, this uncharacteristic questioning of his authority. I've worked hard to give her everything she could want, he replied defensively. That's love, isn't it? Mary let out a slow breath, feeling the weight of his world pressing against her. Love isn't just providing, it's about engendering independence, too. Do you realize how powerful it can be to support her dreams, even if they seem trivial in your eyes? He bristled at her words, but a sliver of realization flickered in his deep-set eyes, revealing a man who, beneath the surface, harbored the same self-doubt every parent fears. What if she fails? He finally asked, his voice almost pleading. Yes, what if she does? Life is full of obstacles, but that's how you grow. Sarah deserves the chance to navigate her own storms. The fight within Mary surged. She needed to be a warrior for Sarah's journey, but those very strikes would also ensconce her own. Maybe you don't understand, he continued, an underlying anxiety resurfacing. I was raised in a world filled with adversity. You safeguard against it. Mary's heart clenched. Yet you perpetuate that cycle, limiting her experiences to shield her from life. The revelation throbbed in the room. Together they were dissecting a lifetime of inheritance, a generational pattern that had molded Jason in ways he was still coming to terms with. Understanding began to dawn on him, but it was slow, like the thawing of winter into spring. You're right, he conceded quietly. But how do I change that? I don't know how. Start by listening to Sarah, Mary urged, her voice softer now. Make it about her interests, her passions. Create that foundation where she knows she can fail and still be loved. Jason's brow furrowed, his own inner conflict laid bare. It was as if he was reconsidering the architecture of their relationship stone by stone, allowing vulnerability to shape new designs far removed from his initial intentions. Maybe we could work on this together, he suggested, his voice barely above a whisper. At least for her sake. Mary felt a rush of warmth. His willingness to collaborate was a monumental shift, yet there was still caution lurking beneath her excitement. We can, but you have to be open. Trust me, it may feel uncomfortable. I'm already uncomfortable, Jason replied with an appreciative look. The future shimmered with promise, the fragile constructs of their individual existences merging into something potentially profound. But with hope came trepidation. Would they both be able to navigate the turbulence of uncharted emotional territories? As they exited the room, an unexpected thought flickered in Mary's mind. Did she have enough faith to believe that this shift could withstand the inevitable trials of revelation and growth? If Jason could face his fears, what lay ahead for her, a woman who had spent years buried beneath other people's expectations? That question unspooled dangerously, allowing a new layer of resolve to take root within her. The journey was unfolding, yet instead of knowing her place, the ground beneath her felt unstable. Would her newfound empowerment flourish, or would it wobble under the weight of their shared realities? The sound of footsteps brought them back to the present, an unfamiliar face arriving at the corner. Are you ready for the meeting? The stranger asked, glancing at Jason with a mixture of uncertainty and expectation. Mary's heart skipped. Meetings often bore the weight of unspoken truths, capable of redirecting their newfound purpose. Would this next encounter fracture their budding alliance, or could it serve as a catalyst for something greater? Jason's expression flickered with uncertainty as he processed the stranger's query. The crispness of the air around them contrasted sharply with the warmth from their earlier conversation. It felt like the moment paused, suspended between what was discovered and what still lay beneath the surface. Mary stepped slightly forward, her professional instincts kicking in. Yes, we're ready. Just give us a moment. The stranger nodded, turning to let them gather themselves, and with that, Mary felt an urgency to reinforce the progress they had just made. Jason, she began, her voice steady, focus on what we discussed. Your journey is just beginning, and time will test the commitments you make today. Embrace her desires. It's all about creating a new foundation. He met her gaze, and for a flickering moment, Mary saw not just the father but the man who was beginning to peel back layers of himself, revealing frailty that could transform into strength. You're right. I need to let go of my fears. At least, I need to try. His admission revealed a profound vulnerability, and yet Mary knew the road ahead was laden with challenges. And your first step starts here, with the people around you. Your support system needs to flex, but it also needs to grow. As they walked toward the meeting room, the ornate door looming ahead felt like an entrance to a new world, a space where decisions would be made that could bolster or strain Jason's resolve. Mary's mind raced through the possibilities, weighing the importance of each discussion. She felt an internal commotion, the equilibrium of excitement and anxiety coiling in her stomach. Inside the meeting room, the atmosphere morphed almost palpably. A group sat around an oval table, some familiar faces, others new. Jason took a seat at the head, an instinct born of his corporate experiences, yet in this moment, he was a different man. Mary settled beside him, her role now evolving into something that felt more collaborative, less directive. As the meeting commenced, the focus quickly shifted to business objectives and financial forecasts. But every once in a while, Mary saw Jason glance at her, as if seeking reassurance. Each time their eyes met, the unspoken connection reaffirmed the role she had begun to assume, part mentor, part ally. Suddenly, during a discussion about project risks, a voice broke in, filled with laughter. "You know what I think? We should really let the next generation take the helm instead of us always holding the steering wheel." It was Brenda, Jason's assistant, her smile radiating genuine warmth. A ripple of laughter passed around the table, breaking the tension. But underneath, Mary felt an undercurrent. Brenda's words felt charged. Could there be a grain of truth? Did they actually need to step back and allow new perspectives like Sarah's into the room? As she contemplated this, the discussion shifted back to numbers, but Mary remained fixated on the idea, pushing aside her habitual reservations. How could they matter if they stifled the voices of those who had yet to truly join this world? Unexpectedly, Jason raised his hand, a gesture crashing into the ongoing conversation. "Brenda's right. Perhaps it's time we rethink our strategy. We're so focused on outcomes that we forget how we got here." His voice was steadier now, firmer. Mary's heart raced. This was the man willing to cross boundaries, to shake the structure they had both crafted in their minds. She silently cheered him on, but the tug-of-war in her own resolution continued. Could she step out of the shadows and embrace this disruption? Almost as if sensing her internal conflict, Brenda glanced over, her eyes bright. "Are you with us, Mary? We might need your insight on this." Suddenly, Mary felt the weight of the room fall on her, waiting. The moment held the potential for influence, for reigniting her own sense of purpose. She could opt in, share her thoughts, and contribute to shaping not just Jason's narrative but Sarah's future as well. The pressure intensified. She could feel her heartbeat echoing in tune with the anticipation of her next move. Did she have the courage to vocalize her ideas? With the determination surging inside her, she sat taller, ready to craft her words, but just then, an unexpected knock echoed from the door. The meeting paused, thickening the moment with new tension. An unexpected visitor. What new dynamic would this intruder introduce, and would it threaten the fragile threads of trust weaving between Mary and Jason? The door creaked open slowly, revealing a cleaning lady pushing a cart filled with supplies. Her presence, so unassuming, briefly shattered the professional veneer of the gathering. Mixed expressions rippled across the table: curiosity, amusement, and a subtle hint of confusion. Mary's heart sank. This was hardly the moment for interruptions. Yet, she felt an unexpected surge of curiosity. Deep down, she knew this intrusion could amplify the decision she hadn't yet voiced. The cleaning lady paused, scanning the room with a blend of determination and hesitation. "Excuse me," she started, her voice steady, "but I overheard part of your meeting. You were talking about letting the next generation take control. Sometimes the best ideas come from unexpected places." Her statement hung in the air, stirring a mix of surprise and interest. Mary looked at Jason, his brow furrowed, still processing the shift in dynamics. The woman continued, "I've seen the way this building operates. Sometimes, you just need to listen to the people who hold it together." That was it. It was an ordinary observation, but Mary felt it resonate deep within her. What if Jason, too, needed to listen not just to her or to Brenda, but to a wider array of voices? Still, doubt flickered in Mary's mind. Would they take the cleaning lady seriously? Did she really understand the complexities that loomed over them? Jason's eyes narrowed as he studied the cleaning lady, caught in a moment of contemplation that felt heavy with unspoken agreement. "What's your name?" he asked. "Lynn," she replied, standing a fraction taller as their gazes locked. "Lynn, thank you for your input," Jason said, his voice steadier than before. "You might have a point. We've spent so much time talking about theories and data points that we forgot about the real factors, the people working behind the scenes." The room was charged with a transformative energy. For the first time, Mary felt a crack in the chain of authority, a moment where the walls might shift. This wasn't just about business anymore, it was about creating a holistic understanding of their ecosystem. "I'd like to hear more," Mary interjected, her voice finding a newfound strength. This was her moment. Lynn is right. We need to expand our perspectives. If we integrate different insights, perhaps then we can bridge the gap between leadership and those who execute. Jason turned toward her, the surprise in his expression melting into admiration, a spark igniting in his eyes. Together, their alliance swelled. The cleaning lady's stance relaxed, encouraged by the idea. "I see how things go round here. It's like you're all on a high-speed train, but sometimes you need to stop and notice the scenery." That simple metaphor struck a chord with the group. Dangerous routines could disguise vital truths. Mary observed as the table dynamics subtly shifted, minds opening around the idea of exploring beyond their internal confines. With every moment, Mary sensed her own professional evolution. No longer a spectator, she was asserting her opinions, allowing her fear of being unheard to dissolve. This was not just about Jason, it was her transformation too, revealing her own dormant abilities. But the energy was fragile, they were standing on the brink of something new. Would their willingness to listen extend beyond this meeting? A thought grounded her, the real challenge lay in maintaining this momentum, solidifying the commitments they began to forge. As if reading her mind, Jason turned to the team. "Let's draft another agenda centered on collaboration. We need diverse voices moving forward." Mary felt a rush of anticipation, yet uncertainty lingered. Would they truly embrace this shift? And could she sustain this advocacy for growth, or would she revert to her old habits? Before she could explore these questions, the clamor of voices filled the room again, discussions transformed by fresh perspectives. But deep within her, she sensed a pivotal moment approaching, one that would require her to navigate the challenges of leading while nurturing the ideas that others presented. How far would she be willing to push the boundaries of tradition? The thought weighed on her as the meeting continued, leaving a lingering inquiry: would courage define her path, or fear breathlessly drag her backwards? Mary's thoughts raced as the meeting faded into a vibrant hum of conversation. The energy had shifted, the dynamics felt like clay in her hands, malleable and waiting to be shaped. She found herself standing a little taller, the embers of newfound confidence kindling within her. Yet, amid optimism, a surge of anxiety kept her anchored. What if her voice, now amplified by Lynn's unexpected wisdom, faltered in the wake of scrutiny? The thought gnawed at her. It had taken every ounce of courage to speak up, to divert the course of the meeting from mundanity to the prospect of dynamic collaboration. Jason continued to lead the discussion, his enthusiasm infectious. "Let's brainstorm areas where we can invite more insights," he urged. And for the first time, Mary noticed he was looking not just at her but at the faces surrounding them. The walls that usually enveloped their territory and ideas were beginning to crumble. She felt a flicker of urgency, an internal push to seize this moment. What if she could steer this burgeoning collaboration, ensure it wasn't just a fleeting burst of inspiration but a fundamental shift? Yet, doubt crept in once more, coating her resolve with a layer of hesitation. Was she equipped to cultivate this? "Maybe we can create subcommittees focused on different aspects of our processes," Brenda suggested, her voice firm. That could work, Mary thought. But practicalities weren't enough, they needed shared ownership, uniting voices from every level. Or workshops where various departments come together to share brainstorming sessions, Mary offered, surprising even herself with the speed of her reaction. The gathering turned to her expectantly. Could she really become the catalyst for change? "Excellent point, Mary," Jason said, nodding appreciatively. Workshops could break down barriers and ignite innovation. And what if we framed it not just as a meeting but as an open dialogue? Her pulse quickened, their ideas blossomed like wildflowers amid concrete. It dawned on Mary that they were all swimming in the same current now, but she remained aware of her weaknesses just below the surface. There was still the whisper of doubt. Could she keep this momentum? And more importantly, could she remain an integral part of this philosophy? The hour pressed on, filled with a myriad of voices contributing to the growing tapestry of ideas. Each suggestion seemed to build upon the last, yet deep inside her a storm brewed, threatening to unravel her aspirations. What if, amid the collaborative culture, her individuality drowned out among the cacophony? As she observed the discussions unfold, Mary caught Jason's gaze. It was approving, yet captivating, hinting at an acknowledgement overlapping with a silent challenge, to zip open her own internal barriers and push through alongside her colleagues. That revelation ignited a palpable determination. She would harness this experience to better herself, honing her leadership skills while still being vigilant to foster the brilliance of others. Can we also commit to regular check-ins, to reflect on how these collaborations are progressing? Mary proposed, striving to tie the threads of commitment into a credible weave. The room erupted in enthusiastic agreement, and relief washed over her. Perhaps she truly had become an architect of change. As the discussions began to wane, Mary contemplated the significance of this moment. She remained tethered, fiercely protective of this shift, yet conscious of the fragility inherent in their new direction. The meeting concluded with a resounding sense of partnership. Conversations lingered as people filtered out of the room. Yet, beneath the surface, an unsettling query resurfaced: how long could she maintain this role before her voice risked faltering again? With an intense focus on her own professional growth balancing delicately against the fear of losing it all, she gathered her belongings, glancing at the doorway. Outside, the world felt palpably different. What awaited her when she stepped out into the unknown, armed with this newfound purpose? As uncertainties curled around her ambition, Mary felt a sudden rush. Her thoughts spiraled toward a new possibility. Could she transform her fears into the very force that drove her forward? The thrill of exploring that potential drew her closer to the door. Would she have the courage to embrace the vulnerability of true leadership, or would harsh realities pull her back into the shadows from which she emerged? The air outside felt charged as Mary stepped into the buzz of the office hallway, her heart racing in a rhythm that mirrored her ambition. She was no longer simply a participant. The meeting had ignited something within her, a growing desire to declare her ideas, to carve her niche confidently in this shifting landscape. Yet, the thrill of stepping into this new role also unwrapped layers of fear. Despite the shared enthusiasm still echoing in her mind, anxiety whispered warnings. What if the responsibilities she had embraced were more than she could handle? Questions nagged at her. Would her colleagues expect her to lead every initiative, or could she rely on the same collaboration that had brought them forward? She walked past clusters of colleagues, their conversations swirling in a comforting haze of familiarity. A sudden voice interrupted her reverie. "Mary." It was Simon, one of the more cynical team members, leaning casually against the wall. "There's more to collaboration than just fluff. Are you really prepared to back up those proposals?" His skepticism was palpable, breaking through her initial buoyancy. "Absolutely," she replied, surprising herself with the strength of her conviction. "If I'm going to make these workshops work, I need a supportive process in place. But I also want to ensure everyone speaks up. It can't just be me." Simon raised an eyebrow, a flicker of respect crossing his face. He had often dismissed her as just another cog in the machine. "All right then. Just remember, those who lead are the first to take the fall if it collapses." As he walked away, Mary felt a deepened resolve settle in. Simon's skepticism had ignited a flame. She was determined to prove that her aspirations could flourish. She pulled out her notebook, inspiration coursing through her as she jotted down ideas on how to structure the upcoming workshops, themes that resonated across departments, interactive activities that encouraged participation, and checkpoints for follow-up discussions. Each thought solidified her vision and purpose. Later that day, she found herself in front of her computer, emails filling her inbox. The growing collaboration buzz had sparked requests from team members eager to dive deeper into shared projects. Each notification felt like a weight off Mary's shoulders, a realization that she wasn't alone in this pursuit. The responsibility did not rest solely on her. They were all stepping out of their comfort zones, yet, the weight of leadership began to push down on her. The more she engaged, the more she sensed potential pitfalls. Her heart raced whenever she considered her next move, balancing empowerment with accountability. Could she manage differing personalities effectively? Could she really encourage voices in the room, especially those often overshadowed? When she finally reached her desk, a notification popped up, a request for a one-on-one meeting with Jason. Anticipation and apprehension intermingled as she clicked to accept. What could he want? Would it further emphasize the expectations laid upon her? As she prepared her thoughts, impressions of the previous meeting danced in her mind. Had she solidified her position in this new topography she was beginning to navigate? Or was she just a fleeting image before the winds of change swept her back into obscurity? The clock ticked away rapidly, each second adding to the intensity of her uncertainty. What if Jason brought up her perceived shortcomings or questioned her competence before others? The fear of exposure gnawed at her, challenging the confidence she had just found. The hour approached, and Mary felt a rush of clarity cutting through her worries. This wasn't just a meeting, it was another chance to define herself. Stepping into the unknown could yield more than repercussions. It was leverage, a push into her burgeoning role. As she entered the conference room, Jason looked up with an encouraging smile. She could sense the significance in his gaze, recognition and challenge mingled. For the first time, she asked herself, was she ready to own every aspect of this responsibility, even if it meant facing her greatest fears in the process? With that thought colliding at the forefront of her mind, she took a deep breath, preparing to engage in a discussion that could either crystallize her trajectory or test the very fabric of her emerging identity. Would she leave this meeting fortified or exposed? The stakes felt utterly real. Mary sat across from Jason, the hum of the air conditioning punctuating the silence as she waited for him to speak. The walls felt instantly confining, an invisible pressure squeezing her chest. His expression was unreadable, an encouraging mask that both calmed and unnerved her. What if her assumptions about this meeting were completely off? Mary, Jason began, leaning slightly forward, I've been impressed by your initiative lately. The proposed workshops have potential, and I want to discuss how you envision your leadership evolving in this role. The mention of leadership sent a jolt of anxiety through her. I believe in collaboration, Mary said, her voice steadier than she felt. By facilitating these workshops, I aim to bring everyone's perspectives to the forefront. I want it to feel inclusive and open, not like a top-down approach. That's a solid foundation, he replied. But remember, leading means making tough calls when participation doesn't meet expectations. How will you manage that? The question cut deep, surfacing the strains of doubt she had pushed to the back of her mind. Would she lose the trust of her team if she had to enforce stricter guidelines? The thought made her stomach pool with unease. I'll base decisions on feedback, she replied cautiously, and create an environment where people feel safe to express their concerns. But I also understand that sometimes decisions need to be made quickly to maintain progress. Jason nodded, still gauging her. Good. But you'll also need to carry the burden of those decisions. Are you prepared for colleagues to oppose you when you need to take a stance? I can handle opposition, Mary said, her voice a shade more defiant. However, insecurity throbbed beneath her bravado. Could she handle the criticism, the conflict? Could she put her vision above comfort, sacrifice agreement for action? The pause that followed felt like a chasm. Jason's expression shifted subtly, signaling the seriousness of their discussion. Leadership doesn't just involve implementing ideas, it requires a deep understanding of human dynamics, especially in challenging situations. Mary's heart raced, a light flickered in her mind. You mean navigating different personalities? Exactly. Uniting the team requires you to tap into each member's motivations, guiding them even when they resist. Real leadership is often a series of difficult conversations. The weight of his words sank in, shifting her understanding of leadership to a more nuanced plane. She had thought of leadership as an orchestrating role rather than a battlefield of human emotions. I'll need to learn that, she admitted, recognizing the gap in her self-awareness. In that moment, an uncertain resolve began to crystallize within her. Let me suggest something. As you plan the structure of the workshops, perhaps include sessions that focus on self and team reflections. It could provide insights into personal dynamics, Jason proposed, his eyes sparkling with encouragement. That's a great idea, Mary replied, the kernel of a strategy forming in her mind. Embracing conflict can lead to rewarding results. Own those difficult conversations, Mary. Don't shy away from them. As Mary processed his advice, a new dimension of her ambitions emerged. She needed to prepare not just for success but for confrontation. She had to be ready to balance empathy with authority, charm with candor. "Thank you, Jason," she said with a newfound determination, a firm anchor in her voice. She realized this wasn't just about the workshops anymore, it was about her ascent into a leadership identity that required her to become more than she ever thought possible. As she left the conference room, clarity flooded her thoughts. The next phase of her journey involved challenges that would test her profoundly, reshaping her very understanding of leadership, yet just as she reached her desk, a familiar voice cruised through the air, pulling her focus. "Mary, can we talk?" It was Simon again. Tension twisted in her stomach. Why did he always seem to appear at pivotal moments? The sense of impending confrontation hung like a dark cloud. She needed to face this dialogue head-on, for better or worse. Would he offer a blunt critique, or was he ready to surprise her? The answers lay just beyond the threshold of this next interaction. Mary steeled herself as Simon gestured for her to step aside. A small crowd formed at the edge of the open workspace, observers silently curious about the impending exchange. The echoes of her earlier conversation still reverberated in her mind, but now they felt charged with urgency, a reminder of how much she had achieved and how far she had to go. "Congratulations on stepping up," Simon remarked, crossing his arms, his face betraying only slight skepticism. "But can you actually pull off these workshops? I mean, are you prepared to take the heat if they flop?" His question pierced through her veils of hope, salting the edges of her newfound confidence. Yet instead of crumbling under pressure, something inside her transformed. "I believe I can," she asserted firmly, channeling the trust she had begun to cultivate both in herself and in her colleagues. "Believe? That's easy," he shot back, arching an eyebrow. "It's implementation that matters. When the rubber meets the road, what's your plan if everyone starts doubting your leadership methods? Doubt will creep in." As if hit with a jolt of electricity, Mary felt clarity wash over her. "You're right," she acknowledged, meeting his gaze directly. "But I intend to create a framework where feedback and open dialogue aren't just words, they will be the backbone of my workshops. I want everyone to feel they can contribute, and if things start to go sideways, we can adapt together. That's real leadership." Her voice wavered slightly but then regained its strength. The heat of the moment ignited a spark. She was no longer simply discussing ideas, she was embodying them. The realization filled her with an unexpected vigor. Simon paused, caught off guard by her assertiveness. "All right, I see some fire," he commented, a hint of appreciation creeping into his tone. "Just remember that fire can burn or warm, it's all in how you manage it. If you can engage that fire without letting it consume you, there might be hope for you yet." For the first time, Mary felt a simmering alliance beginning to brew, not just a potential adversary but someone who could become an unexpected ally. "Thank you, Simon. I'll take your advice to heart," she replied, her tone shifting to one of determination. She had accepted the challenge, understood that her personal growth intertwined with the growth of her work environment, and all it required was the courage to extend her reach. As Simon walked away, Mary felt that a shift had occurred inside her. She had faced his skepticism not as a threat but as an opportunity to fortify her own resolve. This confrontation had been about more than merely defending her initiatives, it had been an affirmation of her rebirth as a catalyst for change. Days turned into a blur of meetings, conversations, and planning sessions. Mary's confidence solidified, her pulse quickened each time she engaged with her colleagues. Each workshop was carefully designed, a mosaic of voices interweaving through shared experiences. It became clear that each participant was inspired to contribute their unique insights. With each collaborative step taken, they fostered an environment that fostered creativity, generating innovative ideas that astonished even the most seasoned team members. Yet, she could sense that the true test lay just ahead. Weeks later, she stood before the assembled team for the first workshop, her heart pounding yet steady. She had planned this moment meticulously but knew how unpredictable these sessions could be. The energy was electric as she welcomed everyone, sensing the anticipation ripple through the room. "Today is about you," she began, her voice resonating with clarity. "We are here to explore ideas collectively, to rise and grind together, shaping not just our projects but how we engage with one another moving forward. Every voice matters, and this is your space." As those words left her lips, she felt something profound pulse through the air. This was not merely a workshop, it was an initiation into a new way of working, a committed step toward building bridges where walls once stood. Jaws relaxed as heads nodded in understanding. The discussions blossomed around shared ideas, a symphony of opinions weaving together. Mary guided them through each stage, watching as voices amplified, sharing their visions and desires. The initial doubts her colleagues had harbored melted like ice under the sun, replaced with curiosity and energy. At one point, while facilitating an activity centered on team identity, one team member shared how their childhood experiences shaped their work ethic. The personal openness rippled throughout the room, breeding safety and vulnerability, the very fabric of their team's newfound foundation. With each passing moment, Mary felt a sense of accomplishment well up within her. This workshop was the embodiment of her growth. She had transitioned from merely a participant in this narrative to a prominent architect of change and inclusion. Each person engaged deeply, and she found herself at the helm, steering their collective strengths toward a common vision. As the session concluded, applause erupted not just for her leadership but for the collective experience they had carved together. The camaraderie was undeniable, a palpable shift in the atmosphere that transcended mere business. They had crossed a threshold, igniting a collective spirit of adaptability. In that moment of recognition, fulfillment washed over her like a wave, a tender whisper that this was only the beginning. She had demonstrated that her voice mattered, that by fostering connection, she had empowered others to find their own pathways. Mary stepped into the corridor, her stride buoyed by solid confidence. She was no longer alone in this journey. At that moment, she understood her true achievement. Beyond the responsibilities of leadership lay the extraordinary influence of creating a culture that accepted, inspired, and uplifted each individual voice. She had found her place not only in her job but within herself. As Mary stepped into the morning light, she took a breath full of possibility. She was ready for whatever lay ahead, equipped not just with the recognition of her abilities as a leader but with the knowledge that growth was a shared endeavor, thriving under the spark of collective empowerment. Now, it's your turn to be part of this journey. You need to subscribe now to catch the exclusive emotional stories that reflect impactful transformations. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Every single click matters. Comment your thoughts and reactions about Mary's incredible evolution. Your words inspire others. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to embrace their own paths of personal growth together. Let's create a wave of positive change.